Merliss soon left the smoke behind. The rising moon gave more than enough light for a cat, and she neither saw nor heard any sign of the wolf. She sneezed to clear her nostrils of smoke residue. A working nose meant more to her than a rudder to a ship. The landscape came alive with smells. There were night-blooming flowers. The ground shed the heat it had collected from the sun, carrying the smell of roots and worms, snails and fungi. A mole pushed through the dirt, caught her scent, and disappeared. Rodents crossed her path, and she crossed their trails. The cat wanted to chase them. Merliss suppressed the instinct. Hagnar's Bane was a squat hill studded with outcrops. An invading chieftain had led his war band past this hill and had lost his life and those of all the men in an ambush. War had been cruel and efficient in those days, like nature. No one living knew of Hagnar. So many invaders, and some much more successful, had followed. She doubted anyone called this hill by any name. Merliss sniffed deeply as she approached the hill. The outcrops provided cover for predator and prey alike. She scented a fox with her kits. A badger was moving west. No wolves. She moved ahead and rounded the base of the hill to its eastern slope. She sensed the old death of Hagnar and his slaughtered band. There were remnants of power here. Magical power came from many sources, but nothing created it like the violent change from life to death on the large scale of a battle. The power permeated the rocks as blood had soaked the soil. Most of the power had bled away by now, but combined with the line beneath the hill and the moon, she reasoned there was enough magical energy for a decent scrying. There would have been no doubt in Aelwic's marsh. She knew where a stone circle once marked the intersection of 4 ley lines. The circle had marked the place until one terrible day when the ground rolled like swells in the sea. The high ground had become flooded low ground, and the stones had sunk in the mud. Like Hagnar's hapless warband, the stone circle had been lost to memory. The gurgle of water over rocks focused her attention to her task and awakened her thirst. Her ears guided her to a wet cleft at the base of an outcrop. A thin stream of water fell onto a series of rocks down the slope. At the base of the hill, the water pooled in a shallow, natural rock bowl before dripping over the edge to a stream that wound across the moor to the river Ogwicka. Merliss looked about, sniffed for predators, and then stretched her head over the pool. The moon reflected off the smooth surface, and the silhouette of her pointed ears loomed large against it. She lapped at the water. Cool and fresh, it soothed her parched throat. She brought a forepaw to her mouth and bit until she tasted blood. She held her paw over the pool and watched a few drops fall. The blood dispersed into red threads stretched along the current. She sat on her haunches. Her breathing slowed as she relaxed and focused on the water, opening her mind to the elements. Power crept up her spine. The moon showered her with energy from above, soaking through her back. Her mind buzzed, and the cat wanted to run away from all the prickling sensations. The summoning spell was not complex. She had learned it early on in her training to be a shaman, but it required power and talent. Her soul sight gave her an edge. Some acolytes never mastered scrying. It would drain her, but the clues to the future, however obfuscated, would pay for the effort. Her spirit slid into a gap between the physical and spiritual worlds. She saw through a thick gray mist, but she was no longer using her physical sight. Tendrils of power waved before her like moss in a slow current. There was hers, faint and yellowish, that from the ancient battle reached skyward from the soil in red strands. The moon's power shone in a bright white, dazzling to behold. She wove tendrils from each source together and spoke the words to bring the future. In her cat's voice, the phrases sounded like yowling, but as she had determined from previous scryings, the thought behind the words rather than their pronunciation carried the summons. The pool flashed orange with fire. Pain and worry ached in her bones. Fear stabbed her heart. Scrying was as much about feeling as seeing. Cats lumbered past behind the flames. Their wheels and sides seemed to be made of fire that did not consume. Figures in the carts writhed, not as one animal, but many creeping forms, crawling one over the other in some perpetual game of King of the Mountain. Merliss narrowed her eyes. These creatures we called beetles toiling over a dung mound, but the shapes were not right. These beetles threatened with pinchers, and their segmented tails dragged behind. A man snatched one of the beasts, then dropped it into a cauldron. She leaned farther over the pool and lowered her head to see more. The fire lunged and snapped at her nose. An illusion, she knew, but the cat's instinct sent her leaping backward. The smells of the night assaulted her. She saw the moor with her night vision. A mosquito buzzed in her ear. No. She scurried back to the pool. The moon's reflection mocked her. The scrying spell was broken. She cursed the cat. Merliss collapsed onto her side, her wobbly legs no longer supporting her. The sharp edge of a rock poked her ribs, but she didn't move. The effort exceeded the annoyance. She needed a place to rest before walking home. The outcrops on the hill would suffice for a nap, and time to think about what she had seen. Bats flitted overhead, chasing mosquitoes and moths. She breathed deeply. Purring soothed her. Lying in the open left her exposed, but sometimes being small and gray was an advantage. Moonlight silvered her fur. She soaked in what power the moon offered and flexed her claws as some strength returned. When she was recovered enough, she rolled onto her belly off of the annoying rock, curling her paws beneath. Magic had its cost. Her power was like a grain of sand to the sea. She sniffed. Ponies. Her ears twitched. A snort, a nicker, a herd of ponies, she thought, and something else. She sniffed again and sorted the scents. A puka.